Alright, let's bring it back to the basics here on Art 101. Hey, welcome back to Art 101 with me, Mr. Burgher. Today I want to talk a little bit about the building blocks of art. It's important to bring it back to the basics. This is one of those things that as an artist it's very, very difficult to jump into, because as an artist we make what we make or what we enjoy or we have motivations to do what we do, but it's not very often that we examine why artists maybe outside of ourselves do the art that they make. So today I want to examine why artists make the artwork that they make. In this episode I also want to examine art and creativity and how those things are connected and are related, but also how they're related to other things. In educational circles it's very, very topical. Right now, creativity and building creativity in students is one of those things that's very, very key, and a lot of people are jumping on that bandwagon. It all starts with the father of art history, who is a man by the name of Johann Winckelmann. He was a German art historian and archaeologist who also had a passion for studying religion and medicine. But his true passion in life was examining the artwork of the ancient artists. Specifically, he loved the artwork of the Greeks. He was not at all interested in the Roman copies and wanted to come up with concrete evidence that one could examine to know the difference between the real Greek artworks and those Roman copies. He did some extensive studying in Pompeii and Herculaneum at those excavation sites. The discovery of these two cities in the 1740s brought that culture back to popularity, and it would very much influence the neoclassical art movement. So in his writings he would jump in and tell us what things and what components made things beautiful. Now the really interesting thing is aesthetics, or what we consider socially beautiful, is really a science. Scientifically, aesthetics would be described as the study of sensory or sensory emotional values, sometimes called judgments of sentiment and taste. This related to Winckelmann's work through an understanding that copying of classic art would definitely improve skills and help develop an understanding for those classic arts. Further, he believed that it should be done in a way that created artwork that was the owner of the artist creating it, not simply a regurgitation of what somebody else had done. Winckelmann's writings continue to influence art history and how we do business. Sadly, he was murdered over some rare coins that were given to him by the Empress Maria Theresa, and he was buried in a cathedral in Italy.
If there's anything I hate worse than art, it's crime.
When looking at the art of the historic world, there are several things to keep in mind. It's important for people to understand art historical works because it gives us an idea of where we have gone and where we're going as a society. The work of the art historian can be boiled down into two basic groups. The first group really focuses on the object itself. What does that object do artistically? Why do people appreciate it? The second group really examines the social impact of it. What does it mean to the society? In my videos, I like to look at both types of art historical framework. Sometimes I focus on the object, and other times I focus on the social importance of the artwork. Throughout one's education, elementary, high school, college, as artists we make art that we want to make. It's a somewhat selfish activity. Professional artists don't really work that way. In many cases, one's schooling really sets them up to process and think about the creation of their artwork in a completely backward sort of way. Most artists work on a commission, where they are working for a direct client, someone that is paying them to make a specific piece of work. This might be an art dealer that wants to help the artist and themselves make money. This might be a community that wants to add beauty to public areas. This might be a governmental body that wants to see its power on display for all to see. This could be a religion that wants to inspire its members, and various other clients. Why do artists do what they do? It seems simple, but it's a little bit more complicated, but the answer is actually pretty simple. Go figure. Regardless of the art historian, the time period it was made, or the client that it was made for, art can really be made for 5 basic reasons. Now, there are a million reasons to make art, but you can take all of those reasons and boil them down, and the 5 remaining are the 5 most dominating reasons as to why people have made art throughout history. Before we jump into that list, I need you to understand that art is a form of communication. Over time and in different places all around the world, that communication has changed. Being able to identify what you're looking at is only one layer of that visual understanding. If we can understand the artwork's symbolic meaning, or what it was supposed to tell us at the time that it was made, we will be able to have a deeper understanding of that art and thus a deeper understanding of the people that made it. There was a time that reading a painting was just like reading a book, but just like any literacy, it was something that had to be learned. With some training and close observations in art history, we can better learn how to read these great artworks once again. Here's a prime example. This painting was done by Jan van Eyck early in the Renaissance of 1434. As we examine the painting, it looks like nothing special, just a regular portrait of a wedding. Through observation, we can better understand what their story is. For example, they are not yet married. We know that because of the cut and the color of the dress and the white veil. The green dress and white veil are just like an engagement ring. These are symbols to prospective suitors that somebody has taken. So this is more of an engagement portrait than a wedding portrait. Another side note on her is her hairstyle. Most people might not look at her hair that closely, but really look at it. Look how high her hairline is. It's well behind the veil. Why is that? At this time in history, the wisest of people were the older men, so a receding hairline was associated with a level of intelligence. Because this is not a problem for some women, they would shave their hair back so as to give themselves the appearance of a receding hairline and thus more intelligent. There are many examples of Renaissance paintings that include female portraits with exaggeratedly high hairlines, and that's why. And now you know.
And knowing is half the battle.
They're committing themselves in a very holy sort of way. We know that this is a sacred event because both of them have their shoes placed on the floor. Behind them we see the rosary, and above them a chandelier with a single lit candle. This signifies their belief of monotheism and their beliefs as Christians. Another symbol of their religious beliefs is the domed mirror in the back of the room. The carvings around the mirror pay tribute to Jesus. Strangely enough, right above that mirror is where Jan van Eyck signs his name. It was not fashionable just to put a signature in the corner of a painting when finished, because where in the world do you ever just see a floating name? So Jan van Eyck writes his name in the back like graffiti in the German text that reads, Jan van Eyck was here 1434. We know that they eventually want to have children. Many people think that it's because she has her hand on her belly, but that's not the case at all. It's actually the bedpost. The carving on the bedpost is a Venus figure, a patron saint of fertility. We understand that they each have a place or a role in their relationship. His role is making money. This is signified by the fruit. Fresh produce wasn't something that was easy to come by in the 1400s. These fruits on the windowsill and table signify that they are very wealthy individuals. Her job is to take care of the family at home. This is signified by the house to her back, but also the bed.
Are you kidding me?
This is before the time of political correctness or any form of a women's liberation movement. And distinctly at their feet is also a dog. The dog stands between them, a symbol that they are loyal to one another. Dogs have been an icon of loyalty since the Renaissance, when this painting was created.
Amazing, you figured this all out already.
Alright, now let's jump into it. The first reason for creating art is to create something with beauty. Art can provide us with many things, including pleasure, enjoyment, amusement, diversion, and embellishment within our world. Art that is visually attractive and well created can certainly enhance the world around us. When we're in front of a beautiful piece of artwork, we might forget about where we're at for a moment. Artists have done this throughout time, including the great painter Georgia O'Keeffe. She spent much of her career creating enlarged paintings of flowers, so we might allow these giant canvases of beauty into our busy lives. As they say, we have to slow down, stop, and smell the roses. Georgia O'Keeffe created nothing if she didn't create something of beauty. Beauty can be a bit subjective, however. We might find beauty in roses and flowers, macabre skulls, a beautiful landscape, a portrait, or any number of subjects that personally attracts our interest. Art, like beauty, is larger than any single definition. One dictionary describes it as the expression or application of creative skills and imagination, especially through visual mediums such as painting or sculpture.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Reason for creating art number 2 is to reveal a truth or opinion. Certainly some artists reveal themselves via the artwork that center on their religious beliefs, place of origin, sexual orientation, and other things about themselves that would reveal a truth or opinion on the mindset of their work. We understand the artist's truths and opinions through the works that they make. From the beginning of time to the present day, this has been the case. There's a modern-day pop surrealist or lowbrow artist by the name of Mark Bryan that's doing just such a thing. He creates these pop surrealistic scenes that are like vivid, realistic dreams, and in some cases, nightmares. He places a lot of his political beliefs into these works, so there is no question of what he thinks about politically. Some of us may disagree with the opinions of Mark Bryan, just like some of us might strongly agree or be completely indifferent to what he thinks. But the fact of the matter is, we understand his truth. He's putting it out there for us, what he thinks. His opinion, his truth. This element of self-expression is always in existence in all forms of art. Even cooperatively created artworks like architectural pieces or Broadway or feature film productions, or any artwork produced by multiple people.
Thanks to denial, I'm immortal.
The third reason for creating art is immortalization. An artist's drive to immortalize can be very powerful. This may be an artist trying to immortalize religious stories like Michelangelo painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. It's similar to Whistler painting his mother to immortalize a family member. And there is a relationship to immortalization when Ings paints Napoleon I on his imperial throne in 1806. Napoleon Bonaparte had an understanding of the power of art. Once he gained power during the French Revolution, he would use artists with masterful skills to speak and fight his political battles for him. This painting is a prime example. Not only is Napoleon depicted as a leader, but he's depicted almost godlike. Many scholars have drawn comparisons between Jan van Eyck's God in the Ghent altarpiece and this depiction of Napoleon Bonaparte. Art continues to fulfill personal and spiritual needs for many people all around the world. Every major religion uses religious artworks to inspire and instruct their faithful followers. Similarly, art has been used to immortalize traditions, deities, and historic figures throughout time.
I'm not European. I don't plan on being European. So who gives a crap if they're socialists? They could be fascist anarchists. It still wouldn't change the fact that I don't own a car.
And this leads to our fourth reason for creating art: to reflect one's society. Artists from many societies have sought to criticize or influence values and public opinion through their art. Often the criticisms are clear and direct. We can see this in the artwork of Francisco de Goya in his Disasters of War series, condemning a civil war. It's also very easy to see these ideas in the artworks of Andy Warhol. He reflects society by showing us things from our everyday life, like movies, items that you might find at the grocery store, movie stars, logos, world leaders, things you might see on TV, current events, and so forth. We can also see this in artworks like Race Riot. Very similar to Goya, Warhol is showing us the civil rights tensions that were climaxing in Birmingham, Alabama during the civil rights movement. Taking photographs from Charles Moore, who used these photos in Life magazine and printing them in red, white, and blue, shows his view of our country at that horrific time. This artwork was a part of his Death in America series, a not so positive reflection of our society in the mid-1960s. positive or negative, art in our culture, or any culture, reflects who those people are and the relationships between the individuals and their belief systems. Art can be pleasing and beautiful, but can also inspire us to action. In today's world, this is much more critical than ever, when cross-cultural understanding, open-mindedness, and creative problem-solving are urgently needed to deepen our humanity.
When did you take up painting?
I didn't. It's just relaxing, that's all.
The needs of the artist are the last reason for creating art. Every artist has their own reasons for making art. Of course, an artist might use their skills to make some money, but it goes well beyond financial gain. The artist might have an internal need to want to communicate information about where they're from or their ideas. Some artists will want to communicate about their religious beliefs. There are a million ideas that can be the catalyst for a creative outlet. Some artists want to just make pretty things and decorate the world. Every artist has a different motivation, but many of these motivations will have a similar result. Now that we understand why artists make art, we also have to examine what it is. A work of art is a visual expression of ideas or experiences that is formed with skill through the use of a medium. So what is a medium? A medium basically is a material that is used to make art, and then the techniques that go along with that. For centuries, the most popular media would include fiber, stone, wood, paint, and even clay.
I love my kids, I love real estate, I love ceramics, I love my job, I love wrestling.
As time would pass, we would see new innovations add new media. Colored pencil, pastels, and crayon would add to drawing media. Painting would go on to include acrylic-type paint, and we would see advancements with motion pictures, photography, computers, and video. When people generally talk about the arts, they're speaking of music, dance, theater, literature, and the visual arts. Each art form plays to different senses, yet each one of these art forms is going to present feelings, insight, experiences, and ideas to us that might pull us in one direction or other emotionally. Typically, art appreciation classes will focus on the visual arts. However, all art is about communication. Much of the communication we do on the day-to-day is verbal. Yet any single medium of expression has its limitations. Some ideas or feelings can only be communicated through certain forms or media. For example, some things that are communicated through music can only be communicated through song or music. There really is no other way to do it. The respected American painter Georgia O'Keeffe once said, "I found things that I can say with color and shapes that I cannot say in any other way, things that I have no words for."
That's what I'm talking about!
The source of everything that we really understand in terms of art, science, and technology boils down to an advancement in creativity. The renowned scientist Albert Einstein declares, "Imagination is more important than knowledge." Hey, what do I know? I color for a living. What do we mean by this skill that we call creativity? This is the ability to create something new that has value. It can't be a gimmick, and just being clever isn't enough. This new thing must have a use, or it must unlock some new way of thinking. Otherwise, it's just going to fall flat over time. Creativity has the potential to influence future thought or action. As an artist myself, I'm constantly thinking about these things. When psychologists look at the traits of the creative mind, they can really key in on a few things that the creative mind does that maybe other minds don't do as much. If you want to become more creative, obviously these are things that you'll want to improve on. Let's look at some examples of that. Be curious. Be open to new experience. Look at things from a new vantage point. Take advantage of new situations. Modify old things to become new again. Try to view the whole rather than parts. Find order in disorder. Be in touch with your unconsciousness. Be able to evaluate your ideas. Take risks. Be yourself in the face of opposition. Work tirelessly to accomplish your goals. By using these examples to cultivate our creativity, we can change our attitudes about creativity. Creativity goes hand in hand with the act of making artwork. The insightful artist will actively develop creative works. In order to create more creative works, or if you want to develop this trait within yourself, it requires repetition and putting aside your normal way of making work and replacing that with a new way of creation. When we see artworks that challenge what we think is correct, it will also engage our creativity and it will engage us as viewers. Skill, training, and intelligence are all helpful to creativity, but are not always necessary. The youngest of children are very creative, as are people that have never attended an art school. The act of being creative is a universal drive, and it has little to nothing to do with artistic training, but a mindset on how to approach the process of developing art. Hey, thanks for clicking on the video. I really appreciate the support. Make sure you feel free to subscribe and follow along with all the things we have going on with Art 101 and some of my other videos that I got out there too. Have a great day.